Woo. Ah, you sound great.
Thanks.
You certainly do have brown hair. Woo! Wow. Cheers. That sounds good. Ah. Woo. Oh, good. Damn. Wow. Her writing was absolutely
Yeah.
incredible, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
the days, man.
She has her own voice as a composer for
Uh-huh.
sure.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she's steeped in the bebop tradition, like so many after the 1950s. But she it's also in her writing is also informed by her Japanese roots.
Yeah.
So there are some things that are in the book that really incorporate some of those elements into the music. And as a pianist, I mean, she's very much out of the Bud Powell school. I mean, Bud Powell was her hero. And man, what a treat that was for that 10 years I got to work with her. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was telling Scott before we started that, wait a minute, let me get in front of my mic. I was telling Scott before we started that I worked at Dante's as a waitress in well, 72 to 74, something like that. And their band played a lot at that
Hmm.
time. And it was fabulous. I mean, and Dante's was kind of a small club, you know.
Hmm.
And to hear that band and her writing and Lutebeck and, you know, just the whole thing was so exciting, totally exciting. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Oh
and to
yeah.
think you played with her band for 10 years,
Oh
it
yeah.
must have totally changed your life.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was I mean I got to go to Japan 7 times, and we went to Korea a couple of times, attached to a couple of those tours. One time we toured China
Huh.
because Toshiko was actually born in Manchuria.
Oh,
Her father was a Japanese diplomat, so
mm,
she is Japanese, but she was born in Manchuria. So the NHK, Japanese television network,
yeah.
filmed a documentary on her, and that tour was centered around the documentary. And we went to the town where she was born and spent her early childhood. And then the second stop was the town where she started studying music. And she had a reunion with her piano teacher from back then. And this was before Chairman Mao and the Cultural Revolution, which I think is a great misnomer, but that's another story. Um, yeah, when Mao took over, nobody was even allowed to talk about music. So this gentleman, Mr. Yang, not only couldn't play piano for decades, but he wasn't even allowed to talk about music, and under the rule of Chairman Mao. But she got to have a reunion with Mr. Yang, and she wrote a piece for him, and we played it.
Uh,
You know, the town was Shenyang. That was where he lived, and we played it for him. And it was a really heavy moment. So, and then we
wow.
spent a couple of days in Beijing. We got to see the Great Wall and the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square and all the history in those places. Incredible. And then we finished off with a concert in Tokyo, and then flew back to New York. So
That's incredible. Is she still around?
yeah, yeah,
She
yeah.
is.
She will be 91 in December. Uh,
Is she
Same
living in New
birthday.
York?
Yeah, yeah. They have a brownstone. She and Lou have a brownstone on West 94th Street, just off Central Park, and they rent out the top 2 floors to tenants, and they live on the main floor.
Hmm.
Plus, they have a beautiful garden out back, a gorgeous sunken living room. It's one of those older buildings that, you know, they just made the spaces more open feeling.
Yeah.
Um, they have a basement and a sub basement.
Oh,
In the sub basement, they have built a wine cellar because
huh.
they are big vinophiles, and they only collect French reds.
Oh, wow.
Very particular.
Huh. That's
And
interesting.
yeah,
I remember their house here. They had a really beautiful home that was kind of a blend of Japanese and California.
right.
Yeah, it was a really nice home. Yeah.
Yeah, she used to talk about that when, well, they met in New York. Lou was doing the Tonight Show,
Hmm.
and when Johnny Carson moved out here to do the show, Lou came with the band, and Toshiko came with him. And they started the band out here in LA in 1971 or 72, I think.
Oh, oh my God.
And
So
that's
I
when,
was kind of right there when they were
yeah,
starting.
you were
Huh.
there at the Genesis, yeah,
Oh,
and you got to see all the original guys like Britt Woodman and Charlie Loper and Phil Teal and probably Bobby Shue. In fact,
yeah.
I'm sure Bobby was playing lead trumpet. Um,
I think Joe Roccasano might have played with them.
he probably played one of the alto books, I would imagine. I think Bill Perkins played baritone, maybe, yeah, and Tom Peterson was there, and man, Dick Spencer, I think, and Gary Foster, of course. Gary
Of
Foster was a
course.
mainstay. Yeah, yeah.
And I wonder who was on bass.
Ah, she always used to talk about Gene Cherico as
Uh-huh.
her favorite bassist.
Yeah. And
That
drums?
Drums would have been Peter Donald, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. In the video we just saw, that was Terry Clark playing drums, the great Canadian drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you're from Boston. The trumpet player who played after me on in the regular solo section is Andy Gravish. He's a Berkeley grad.
I know that name.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, these are all New York guys from that video because that was their New York band that
Yeah.
we used to tour with. You know, 2 or 3 trips to Europe I made with them, and that was Vienne, France,
Yeah.
1996. And
It's amazing to me. And even more, I feel, for some reason, I feel even more, oh, I don't like these. Oh, maybe because I didn't turn them on really. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that sounds better.
ah,
Um, it's amazing to me since I've been talking to so many people. You're probably about 145, number 145. And I mean, this sounds kind of naive, but it's like I really have gotten the sense that there's thousands of great musicians who have contributed to the history of jazz.
oh yeah,
And it's kind of mind blowing, really, because I think that I don't think the general public kind of takes that in, you know?
right.
Like, wow, there are thousands of great players who have had lives and have contributed to this
Right.
music form. And it's kind of, I think it's pretty astounding, really, you know?
Well, I tell my students all the time that we have a staggering legacy that came
Yeah,
before us musically, and to dig deep and discover as many of these players and writers and,
yeah,
and vocalists that
yeah,
they can, you know. And yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate that I've been able to have a multifaceted career, uh, mainly as a trombonist,
hmm,
but also as a composer and arranger, and in more recent decades as a vocalist too. And it's just another color in the palette, and it's, you know, like I like to say, it's hard to hit a moving target. So yeah. Well, I feel like I should say hi, everybody, anybody who's out there listening. Yeah.
that's funny, man. Like, actually, I want to just tell you who a few people who are listening. Bruce Stalins, is that his name?
Oh yeah. Oh, Bruce, man. Bruce played in my big band in Florida and in New York.
Oh,
Wonderful trumpet player. Wonderful trumpet player. He's in Seattle now.
oh, cool.
His wife is a great singer too, Bethany Smith Stalins. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
In Seattle. Okay. Yeah. I have a bunch of friends in Seattle and have been there. I was going to go to Seattle this year and do a little tour, but of course that went belly up.
Well,
Abe
just
Pearl.
just real quick while we're still on Bruce, kind of an inside Orlando thing. Hey, Chubby. He's about this big. You know, that's why we called him Chubby. Yeah, yeah. Real skinny guy. Yeah.
I thought you might have been talking about Chubby Jackson or something. I was
Oh no.
looking at that picture. I have that picture on the wall of the whole jazz group in New York.
Oh, the Great Day in Harlem.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was looking at it last night, just looking at each person and soaking that in. Yeah, it's just such an amazing picture. But do you know Abe Pearlstein? He's got Tuesday lunch with Abe radio.
I don't know him,
It's just a
but I
little up the
should.
coast on the West Coast, and he's
Okay.
he's a radio guy. He's been a radio guy forever,
Wow.
and also he's a really great photographer too. But
Hmm.
he yeah, he's really fun. He interviews people, and he was actually on here a month ago or so.
Hmm.
You probably don't know Yun Sung Cho, or Cho as I call him, Cho Yun Sung.
Hmm.
He's from
Okay.
Korea, but he's a pianist, really incredible pianist who lived here. And I met him through the Blue Whale, through June Lee, and
Oh wow. Okay.
he and I recorded together. And he's outstanding, and he's living in Korea now.
Great.
So he's here. He said Lou
Oh,
Tabacan,
oh yeah,
Chico.
oh yeah. Well,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
just getting to
and
listen to Lou play every week. Well, every Monday at Birdland was one of the steadies that we did,
yeah,
and just getting to listen to all these great players in the band.
yeah.
Just man, what a treat.
You know, Joe also mentioned Charlie Mariano. Was he in the band?
Oh no, Mariano was Toshiko's first husband, and
Oh, really?
that
I forgot
was not a
that.
name that they brought up in the house.
He was in
uh,
Boston when I was at Berkeley, and of
oh,
course he
okay.
was talked about all the time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he was, of course, an iconic saxophonist, and yeah, and they have a daughter,
Oh,
and her name is, she goes by Monday Mariano,
oh,
and she's a vocalist. Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
see, there
yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Huh.
Her name is Michiru. That's her name,
Oh,
Michiru
cool.
Mariano. Yeah, she was born in New York when they were all living there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Bill Jackson's here. He says
oh,
hi.
great. Oh man, L.A. Jazz Society representing. Yeah, beautiful. Hey, Bill.
And Bruce says, "Hey, Spike."
Ah, perfect. Okay. I'll tell you that story in a minute.
I figured there was a story there. So, uh, so I didn't even really fully announce you, but I figure everybody knows who I'm having here. But this is Scott Whitfield, and he lives in Los Angeles. And as you heard, he's a trombonist, composer, arranger, and vocalist as well. And I've known him for years, but as in a lot of these cases, I haven't talked to you for 2 hours ever. So
Right. Yeah.
this is interesting.
It's going to be fun. Yeah. I was telling Kathy before we went live. I mean, I've been enjoying these shows that you've been doing, and got to see some dear old friends I haven't seen for a while, and it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So, where did you grow up?
Well, I was born on Long Island,
Oh,
in a town called West Islip, out in Suffolk County. Same hospital as Billy Kerr, the saxophone player.
really?
Yeah, and yeah,
Oh,
Good
Billy
Samaritan
Kerr.
Hospital, West Islip. Yeah, and we lived in Bayshore. My dad was working at what by then, no, actually it wasn't yet. It was Idlewild Airport
Oh,
at the
okay.
time, and it became Kennedy Airport
Oh, wow.
after President Kennedy was assassinated.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, my dad worked for what was then BOAC. Anybody remember BOAC? Well, now it's British Airways.
Oh,
In the early 1970s, they merged with a European carrier, BEA, British European Air, and it was their function was short hops from England to the continent. And
okay.
so when BOAC, which stood for British Overseas Airways Corporation, which is a mouthful, they merged with BEA and became British Airways. And of course, that was
Much better.
much easier for people to remember, of course. And I distinctly remember it being a big deal when they started flying 747s because that was the biggest plane anybody had ever seen. And I thought it was cool that they had that dome up on the top, and you could go upstairs into this first class lounge, and they had pianos. It's like that.
Oh, yeah.
They had a little baby grand piano up in the first class lounge, and yeah, talk about a bygone era.
Yeah, really. They don't do that anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, right. Oh man. So,
Hey, by the way, I'm just putting this in because this would be too late. Cho met you in Ron King's big band.
oh man, oh my God, yes, I remember him. He is a wonderful pianist.
Yeah, really
Oh
great.
wow. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, good.
Okay,
Oh
sorry,
wow.
I didn't want to
Oh
interrupt,
no,
but
that's okay. No,
I
that's
just had
okay.
to.
No, it's good to know that. Yeah. Okay, so there
So
I was.
back to you growing up. So you're a little guy
I'm a
coming
little
up.
tyke, yeah, and
Ah,
and
you couldn't have played trombone right away.
no, I started playing when I was 9.
Trombone?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
how interesting.
what what happened was when I was 7 or 8, I started getting into my dad's record collection.
Yeah.
and he had a lot of big band type stuff. It was very inside the box. Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey,
Hmm.
but there was also a little Count Basie in there, and it was like, okay, yeah. But and there was one. It was a double LP set, or maybe it was a four record set that was from RCA Victor. It was called 60 Years of Music America Loves Best.
Huh.
And I think the original issue date was probably 1959 or 60. But it had everything. I mean, it had Enrico Caruso singing Vesti La Juba, Fritz Kreisler playing violins, Rubinstein playing, just like blazing piano pieces, like and some big band stuff too, like Artie Shaw's "Begin the Begin," Benny Goodman and the Angels Sing, Tommy Dorsey, "There Are Such Things," and Glenn Miller, "Sunrise Serenade." And for some reason, that particular cut grabbed my ear because I'm hearing the combinations of different instruments playing off each other, and it didn't feature the trombone section at all. But I remember hearing the clarinet on top of the saxophones, like, and then I hear the brass doing something else and answering the phrase, and that just, I tell everybody that's probably why I got bitten by the arranging bug so early. It was because I was attracted to the sounds, to the timbres. And so I asked my dad what instrument Glenn Miller played, and he said, I believe the trombone. So I looked my dad right in the eye and said, I'm going to learn how to play trombone and bring back the big bands. I'll,
Oh,
I'll let you know how that's going.
that's so cute, man.
Yeah, I was 7 or 8 years old, and
Man,
and
what a guy.
and when I was 9, the school had this Saturday program. I was sitting in my fourth grade classroom, and a teacher came over from the local high school with a whole like a petting zoo of instruments, and basically talking about the Saturday morning music program. And this
And
is
lo and
this is what
behold,
we
there was a trombone.
Yep, and I already knew that I wanted to play it,
Uh,
but so we all took the forms home, and those of us that took them up on it, our parents signed us up for these Saturday morning classes at the local high school, and Brentwood High School is Brentwood, Long Island. Not Brentwood, L.A., but
right.
um, it would have been a hell of a commute, but. But anyway, yeah, we're both sniffling because of the smoke in the air.
Yeah, the bad smoke in LA here.
Oh man. Um, so basically, the Saturday mornings consisted of for me a trombone class. There were maybe three, four, five of us beginning trombone players, and we rented instruments from the school.
Yeah.
and and so that was the first class of the day. We basically started learning our first few notes, and then there was a beginning band class, and then our parents came and picked us up. So it was just a little quick Saturday morning, 2 3 hours, and and so that continued. And my parents got me my first trombone that Christmas because they knew I was serious about this. And that's funny because that horn ended up on the wall at my parents' house in Florida, which was another story. It was like just like within that time, a couple of years after that, my dad was on his way home from work, and stopped at his local watering hole, and one of the other regular guys was getting up to leave and saying goodbye. He says, well, I'll see you guys around. I'm moving to Florida. And everybody says, what? So, well, it turned out there was a what do you call it, a home developer, I guess, that was, he had a model home center not far from us on Long Island, and a bunch of people were, looking at these model homes and buying plots of land in this little town called Inverness, Florida. about an hour and a half north of Tampa and an hour and a half northwest of Orlando. So it's, it was decent proximity to a couple of fairly major cities. Um, so my dad ended up going in there and looking at things and, bought a plot of land and had a house built. And Christmas of '74, we moved down to Florida. So, and so I finished high school down there and started my own band while I was in high school because I knew I wanted to be a band leader. And so here I am in ninth grade starting my own band. Uh, put a group together to play at the local county fairgrounds, and yeah, and we started playing little jobs around town. I think the first paying gig I did, I made $5. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of
Not
like
bad,
yeah,
actually.
it's kind of like big band gigs in the '80s. Yeah,
Yeah, not
but
too bad.
yeah, yeah, started that way and kind of kept it up, and then finished high school down there and ended up going to a junior college, uh, Central Florida Community College, from which I transferred to Florida State and finished my bachelor's.
Okay.
Now, at the time, they didn't have a jazz degree,
Yeah.
so I got my undergrad in classical trombone performance.
Okay.
And I'm glad that I did because I learned a lot about the instrument and I learned a lot about different types of music. And really, the important thing was proper sound generation and really how to take care of your sound and your chops and a lot of mechanical things that are very important in
Yeah. Yeah.
playing a brass instrument, playing any instrument.
Right. Right.
So I did that, and then took a semester off and went out to North Texas State to do a master's degree. So that was I was well, I made it into the 1 o'clock lab band my first semester, which was a thrill because for 2 years I got to play in that band, and that was the 1 o'clock was mostly grad students at that time.
Yeah.
Steve Wiest was
I'm
one
going
of
to
them.
interrupt you for a
That's right.
second, just for those people listening who don't actually know. That school was the top school for jazz players, especially for years. And so anytime somebody would say that they had been there, you'd always know, well, they're going to be good.
Well,
And especially the 1 o'clock band, right, was the top band, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And but I'll tell you what, the 2 o'clock band was fantastic as well. And well, anyway, Neil Slater was the director of the 1 o'clock
Yeah.
and a wonderful pianist, composer,
Mm-hmm.
arranger. Um, and I learned a lot about writing from. I was already writing, but I learned some other things about writing from hanging out with Neil.
Mm-hmm.
And the arranging teacher was Paris Rutherford, who
Oh,
also ran the Jazz Singers.
yeah.
And I ended up my second year in the horn section for the Jazz Singers.
Oh,
And I became fascinated with the sound of voices blending and immediately wanted to start writing for voices.
mm,
And yeah, and I think that was the impetus for me. Ended up being surrounded by vocal groups for for as long as I have been. But yeah, I bought everything I could on vinyl of the
uh-huh.
Singers Unlimited and Four Freshmen. Later on, discovered the high-lows, and I knew about the Modernaires and the Pied Pipers from the big band listening that I was doing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, so being in that group, led to my interest in the voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up similar listening to you, and also, especially the four freshmen and the high-lows were.
Oh yeah.
I had twin sisters who were 4 years older than me who sang too,
Oh,
so
good.
we would sing together. And the high-lows, boy, when I met Clark Burrows, I was like,
Ah, Yeah,
Wow, I'm meeting Clark Burrows. Wow.
yeah. Well, he used to
A
come
high
to
voice.
Alan's house. Yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally, yeah. But yeah, so um yeah, that what a great, amazing group. And who did you mention who were they part of that? Oh, the swing, was it the Swingle Singers or
Well, I discovered them too.
yeah,
But well, the earlier groups were the Pied Pipers and the Modernaires,
yeah.
and I ended up in the Pied Pipers
Oh,
during my early days when I went back to New York. Um,
singing?
yeah, singing the bottom part,
Oh, see,
and,
no, I
and
did not know this about you.
right. And I sang the bottom part and eventually became musical director for the group, which I
Oh,
still am to this day,
wow, man.
and also for the Modernaires.
Oh
So yeah,
boy. Holy moly.
well, I
So
kind of
who did the
yeah.
writing for those groups?
Ooh, a bunch of people. The Modernaires, when they were with the Miller Band, actually before that, Hal Dickinson was really the brains behind the whole thing. Um, and he and some college friends in Buffalo formed a group in 1935. And I can't remember the original name of the group,
35.
but if Julie Dickinson is on, she will remember. Um, and in fact, she is the youngest daughter of Hal Dickinson and Paula Kelly, and so the group is still in the family. And
Wow. Yeah, Paula Kelly, right.
yeah, yeah.
So the Modernaires had different writers
Hmm.
and
Yeah, and Alan Copland did a lot when he was in the group. He was in the group a few different times, I
mhm.
believe, from the late 40s into at least into the 50s, and then from the late 50s again through the 60s. And he was in one of the later editions of the group around probably in the 1990s. I remember meeting him then because we did a tour where I was with the Pied Pipers and the Modernaires were also on the bill. It's a little Midwest tour with the two vocal groups and the Columbus Jazz Orchestra, which is a very
Oh,
fine big band. And
yeah.
um, so I remember meeting Alan then.
Hmm.
And
I was trying to remember. I'm not going to remember his name. There's a guy who was hanging around my jam session, and he was in. I want to say he was in. I'm not sure which group. He was in one of those groups, and his birthday was my birthday too, and I can't remember his name. I'll have to look that up to
in,
see.
in the mods or
I'm not sure. I
okay.
can't really remember. It's been a long time since he was around. But I'd like to. I wanted to ask you how the groups differed from that period of time to now.
Mm. Well, the Pied Pipers are very traditional, close harmony, like
Hmm.
really straight up and down the chord, like parallel motion. Um, and the Modernaires were very innovative. They were the first group to use stacked fourths.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know if I'm getting too technical for some of the listeners, but a stacked fourth chord just spreads the voicing
Yeah.
out and makes it sound bigger, makes the group
Hmm.
sound even bigger.
Yeah.
And I think it was partially Hal and some of the other people that wrote actually for the group. Um, Fran Scott did some charts. He was also one of the singers. Uh, Julie, if you're here, help me out. Throw some more names. But anyway, but the Modernaires were really an innovative group, and to talk to some of the original guys and the four freshmen, they were very much in admiration of the Modernaires.
Hmm.
When they started doing their thing, they were influenced by the Mods and by Stan Kenton's trombone section.
Mm.
So Bob Flanagan, in particular, sang lead like a lead trombone player.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah. Do you arrange, or are you involved with more current groups now?
Um, well, apart from MDing for the pipers and the mods, well, not really. Not on a full-time
Yeah.
basis. I did one arrangement for a vocal group over in Spain, which I have to thank Corey Allen for throwing me that.
Hmm.
Um, and hopefully Corey is here and can actually tell us the name of the group because I'm having a trombone player moment. But um, but well, I want to go back a little bit because after I finished my master's degree, I got a phone call from a friend of mine in Orlando saying that there was an opening in one of the bands at Epcot Center, the Walt Disney, the other park down at Walt Disney World. Um, so I was thinking, well, it's a steady paycheck with health insurance. I get to play my horn 5 days a week. I'm done by what? 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm off 2 days. I'm off 2 days in the middle of the week, right? And I can work at night if I want to.
Let me think
Wow.
about that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, right. Yeah. So I took the job and ended up buying my first house
Oh,
in
cool.
Orlando. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's where I met guys like Bruce Stalins and some wonderful, wonderful musicians down there still to this day. Danny Jordan, one of my favorite tenor players on the planet, and a great jazz flutist as well.
Was that when Joe Diorio was there with Ira?
Oh, you're thinking of Miami.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. See, to me, Florida is
Right.
one city.
That's well, yeah, it's funny. I used to get that a lot because a lot of people just don't know the geography down
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Miami was about a 3.5 or 4 hour drive.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, I did gigs down there sometimes, but yeah, I
Uh,
didn't really get to know any of the players down there.
mm-hmm.
Only in recent years, I had the good fortune of working with guys like Mike Brignola and Dante Luciani. Um, just, you know, great bunch of guys, and yeah. But yeah, and we have one out. Let's see, Derek Pyle, wonderful young trombonist who graduated from University of Miami, was a Dante student, and now he lives out here. And
Oh.
I've actually sent him in to the Tuesday night band, a few times. Yeah.
The Tuesday Night Band is the band that has been running for many years at our friend's house, Alan Goldman. And
Yeah.
Alan and I used to do, um, you know, weddings and
Ah, okay.
club gigs. And he was playing piano at that time, and then he
Hmm.
started playing woodwinds more. I
Hmm.
remember when he got a piccolo, I was so impressed with the
Mm.
piccolo because I play flute. So,
Ah, okay.
man, I was like, I like this. This is good.
See, I didn't know that you played flute. I've learned something about you today.
Well,
So cool.
I I don't really play it now, except I mean I've picked it up again, but
Hmm.
I flute was my first, not my first instrument, but it was my instrument and I went to Berkeley with it because
Ah,
they didn't have voice when I went to Berkeley.
really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
When I left, the year I left, which was 75, they opened a voice department.
They finally started it when you were leaving. Oh
Yeah.
man. Ah,
But that's okay. I mean, it was good. I mean, the only problem was the theory class and the teacher, Hal
oh,
Crook.
Hal Crook. Yeah.
He just, unfortunately, the way he spoke was totally monotone. And so I basically went to sleep in theory class, which was too bad.
Hmm. That's funny because he is such a great trombone player,
Yeah.
and he's just got a brilliant mind.
Yeah.
And we have not met face to face, but
Oh,
we've been in touch online, sporadically, So
yeah. Yeah.
and Yeah, of course. I'll bet Phil Wilson was probably there too,
He
right?
was,
Yeah.
yeah, and the guy who actually built part of um, the whole study.
Oh, John
Um,
Laporta?
yeah, John Laporta.
Right.
Do you know that when they taught us swing eighth notes, they were actually called Laporta swing notes?
Really?
Yeah, Laporta
Wow.
quarter notes or something like that. Yep, that's what they were called.
I'll have to ask Gary Anderson about that. Did you know Gary back in Boston?
No, but
I think
we talked about Jack Mouse a little bit before, and
yeah.
Jack had a lot to do with John Laporta.
Ah, okay.
He was like a mentor of his, and
Hmm. Well, he
yeah. I
apparently
mean,
was a
and
mentor to
plus,
a lot of people.
I
Yeah.
may not have known names back then,
Mhm.
more faces because I was young.
Right.
I was under 21, so,
Right. Right.
and I was one of the only girls in the school at the time. So,
Yeah.
I was distracted.
Well, right.
What can I say? But it was great because since my dad was a sax player and I grew up around musicians and all that, going to Berkeley was my first individual, involvement. And so I really got a sense of community
Mm,
and how it felt. I still feel how it felt to actually write the music down,
mhm.
and do arranging and stuff. And you'll be so impressed. My first arrangement, everybody was writing for sax and trumpet, of course, right? Two
Mhm.
horns.
Right.
I wrote for trombone and flugelhorn.
Excellent. Excellent. So that's a good blend. It is.
Yeah, sometimes I think I'd really like to go back to school and do a little bit more of that because it's a satisfying feeling to do that.
Right. Oh man.
Maybe you'll inspire me talking to you
There
today.
you go. Well, yeah, why not?
So you were in Florida, but you came here a long time ago, right?
Well, from Orlando, I went back to New York,
Oh,
and then I ended up out here. Um,
what year?
so 2002 is when I moved out here.
God, I feel
Yeah.
like I knew you before that.
Huh.
Okay,
Well,
2002. Wow,
we went to different schools together, so yeah, maybe
apparently.
maybe that's it.
So, I mean, we can jump around on the
Okay,
timeline, but
sure,
when you
yeah.
came out here, why did you come out here? Did you come out for Toshiko or some
No,
other different reason?
well,
Or a girl?
it was that, yeah, it was well, but also at that point, I had regained contact with a high school sweetheart, and uh, then she was working for American Airlines as a flight attendant,
Hmm.
and so when we started seeing each other, she got me the perk of being able to fly standby,
Oh,
and not pay anything.
right, right.
Just if there weren't any seats, you didn't go. But
Yeah,
but 9 times out of 10, I got to get on the flight.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then, and oddly enough, yesterday's anniversary, 9/11 happened, and
Oh,
I was living in Manhattan at the time. So that was kind of surreal. It was like being in the middle of a bad movie of the week. And needless to say, everything changed in an instant. Um, and I clocked it on a map because I had friends that didn't know the geography of New York. I said, well, how close are you to the towers? And I had to look at one of those city maps that they sell, and look at the legend. It's like, well, it turns out I was 3 miles from the World Trade Center,
mm.
and that's close enough.
Yeah, that is close.
And yeah, it was anybody who's on the call here now from New York will remember it also. Broadway shows were closing,
Mm,
clubs were closing,
mm.
and we were all in a panic as to whether the business was going to last. Kind of like now with the pandemic. But yeah, a lot of things were up in the air. I was teaching at Rutgers at that time, and we had parents pulling their students out because, you know, 40 minutes from New York was too close for them. They wanted their kids home, wherever they were from. And so the enrollment at Rutgers was shrinking a little bit. And uh, one thing led to another, and my then girlfriend was based out here. She was based at LAX, um, and we were talking about different things, and you know, she didn't want to transfer back to New York, and I didn't know if the business was going to collapse.
Yeah.
So, kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I ended up moving out here. We ended up getting married.
Oh.
But then a year later, a really great thing happened. My daughter was born.
Mm-hmm.
So she's 17 now, and in her senior year of high school, doing this, sitting with headphones at a screen. Yeah, no, but she's a great kid. Wants to go to law school at UCLA.
Mm.
Knock on wood. And yeah, so, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's how I ended up out here. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, it's
Hey, you want to
been,
hear some music?
yeah, why not?
So, you had sent me, we listened to Toshiko Akiyoshi band, and which I'm going to go back and listen to again.
Oh,
Then
that's fine.
Hiccups. Speaking of your daughter,
Yes,
should I go
yeah.
that?
I think that's a good one to play now because I'll tell you the story first before you play it.
Okay.
Um, when she was about a month old, um, let's see, she was little. She had just been born, and it was my turn to stay up, and feed her. Well, I'd be holding her, feeding her the bottle, and she, drank the bottle too fast and got the hiccups. So, you know, s-
Oh,
it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I'm not going back to sleep now. So I started hearing these little tiny motifs, it's like hiccups. And I think, I think the listener will get it now, when you play it.
that's cool. Wow. Okay, here's Scott Whitfield's Hiccups.
Kendall K on drums.
Cool. Man.
And and yes, that was Larry Williams on trumpet. Yeah, good ears, Bruce. And he's now an Ojai resident. He's
Oh,
moved up
cool.
there, and
That's cool.
well, sadly, just lost his wife last week.
Oh,
Joy. Did you know Joy? Joy
I didn't
Magruder?
know his wife. No, but I knew him from a long time ago. But
Yeah, but
oh, that's really too bad. I'm sorry to
yeah,
hear that.
but Larry, beautiful musician. He doesn't play trumpet anymore, and but is a wonderful, wonderful composer. And
Yeah.
he
So he
always
doesn't
played
play
good.
trumpet anymore.
No, he always also played guitar, and he always wrote
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
and he's got an excellent voice too.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, he just at one point he just decided the trumpet wasn't his voice anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and he just made the decision to put it away and didn't look back. But
Mm.
that was Larry on trumpet, and
Who
um,
on bass?
Jennifer on bass.
Oh,
Jennifer Lightem. Yeah.
boy, man, she's kicking butt.
Oh man, you know what? When I first moved here, I did the Sweet and Hot Festival down by the airport at the Marriott, and they used to throw all kinds of different combinations of people together to play sets. And I'm remembering to move closer to the mic now too. Sorry,
Thank you.
but yeah, so they would throw different combinations of players together, and I got to do a set with Jennifer, and I knew about her. I mean, her reputation was stellar, deservedly so. And excuse me, we got to play a set together in the middle of that festival. And from note one, I'm thinking to myself, I found my bass player. And she still is. She still plays with me.
Oh,
And
that's cool. Yeah, she is stellar,
yeah,
stellar player.
phenomenal musician. Yeah,
Yeah.
and next door neighbor. So,
Oh,
yeah,
I had her on a few weeks ago.
I know. I remember. I watched that. Yeah,
Okay, that was really a fun hang.
it was. Yeah.
She's fun. Um, let's see what else. Oh, yeah, I wanted to know. Obviously, you're your own person, but I just wanted to know how did you feel that Toshiko's writing inspired you or led you in your own
Yes.
writing?
Yes. Well, the evolution of my writing, uh, well, tracing my own history, I start with Sammy Nestico
Mm,
because when I was in high school, the good stuff that high
hmm.
school jazz
Right.
bands were playing was
Sammy
his.
Nestico. Yeah,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, the other stuff were stock charts and they were okay.
Uh-huh,
I was like,
uh-huh.
yeah, all right. But from the first time I played a Sammy chart, I'm like, whoa, man, this guy knows how to write for trombones. Well, he was a trombone player when he was playing,
Right.
and so Sammy, and then I discovered Rob McConnell, the great
Uh,
Canadian writer.
oh, that was great writing and
Yeah,
playing. Ooh,
and Terry Clark was the
Terry
drummer
Clark. That's right.
on those recordings. Yeah, and
Can I just tell you a quick little story
yeah,
about Terry Clark?
yeah.
I forget the bass player. The trio, Jim Hall played with Terry and the bass
Scott
player.
Scott Colley.
Well, actually, the guy from Canada,
Oh, Neil Swainson, probably, or Don Thompson.
Don Thompson.
Don
Right.
Thompson. Oh
So
yeah.
this was
Oh
a
yeah.
long time ago. This
Okay.
was
Yeah.
in the mid or late 70s probably. And they they came here and played. And actually, this particular concert was, I was so blown away that I went home and I was writing, I was practicing in the closet beneath the stairs in those days. So I
Yeah.
went in there and I wrote a song called Mr. Hall, which
Ah,
was a really swinging tune,
cool.
and it was from that concert. And Terry Clark had a broken arm in a cast,
Oh
and he
man.
was still playing his ass off on the
Oh yeah.
drums.
He was driving home from Connecticut, I think it was, after a gig, and somebody rear-ended him
Wow.
The Merritt Parkway, and it was pretty serious impact. I
Yeah.
mean, but he ended up with a broken arm from that crash too,
Oh, wow.
and some of his drums got damaged, and because they were in the back of the car, and it was just a couple of weeks after that, I think he may have been with Jim Hall playing at that club up in Portland that closed. Uh, uh, what was the name? Jimmy Max, was it?
Oh, yeah.
Does that
Yeah,
ring a
that
bell?
was, yep.
Okay, all right. Well, my friend Gary Hobbs lives up in Portland and is a drummer, and Gary told me that after his gig he went over to Jimmy Max to catch the group with Terry playing drums, and he couldn't get in because it was so packed. But he was there was another room like to the side where he could still hear the
Uh-huh.
band,
Oh,
but
wow.
he couldn't see them.
Yeah.
And one tune Terry's playing a drum solo, and the crowd is just starting to go ape shit, and it's and Gary's thinking to himself, well, yeah, well, he sounds good, but why are they going so nuts? And he peeks around the corner, and Terry's left arm is in a cast. He's doing everything one-handed. So yeah, it was after
That's
that
what I
car accident.
saw.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It was
yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
really funny. I'll
yeah.
send you my song. You'll crack up at the
Oh
words
yeah,
too,
yeah.
because it doesn't talk about his broken arm. It just talks about how great they were, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
But yeah, Sandy Cummings, and she's in Santa Barbara. She wants to know if you ever worked with Jeff Elliott.
Oh, one time in Santa Barbara,
Oh,
actually, Kim Richmond put together a jazz camp
yeah,
that we do now. We have just done our third or fourth year.
yeah,
Well, we did this one virtually this year,
yeah.
but Jeff taught the first year. He taught trumpet, and we all had combos that we coached, and
Yeah.
we all taught improv, and it was at an old school.
hmm Well,
Uh,
Sandy might have been there, hanging
Maybe.
around or going or something. She's a singer.
Well, she very likely might have been there because Kimberly Ford is the co-director of the camp,
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
right.
she, of course, taught all the vocal students. And
hmm
yeah, so yeah, that was the one time that I worked with Jeff, and yeah, he's
Cool.
quite a musician. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, gosh, I kind of, for some reason, left off. We were talking about Tuesday nights,
Oh yeah, with
and I
Alan.
don't know
Yeah.
how I got off of that, but so Scott and I have a friend, and Corey Allen. Hi, Corey Allen.
Corey, all right. Corolla, how you doing?
We've already been talking about you. Um, so our friend Alan Goldman has a home that he bought years ago,
Hmm.
and he, besides being a very talented musician and a funny, great guy,
Yeah.
he also had a company that was a small industrial company that he made a lot of money from. So he had bought a home in a kind of growing area of LA, and then and added to it as it went on. You've probably
Hmm.
seen pictures of what he's doing now, which is hysterical.
I was
And
over there a few weeks
oh,
ago,
you
actually.
were? Oh
Yeah.
my God. So he just sent me a few more pictures. Anyway, he's a character, let's just say that. But
Oh, yeah.
anyway, he's a lovely character.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's had a weekly rehearsal band with top players for 25 years.
Hmm.
And And so Scott is in the band, but of course we haven't done it. I say we haven't done it. You guys haven't done it
Since
for
March.
since
Yeah.
March, yeah. But
6 months. Yeah.
also the home
Yeah.
is actually works as a venue too, so that's why
Yeah.
I probably say we because I've had a lot of really nice opportunities to bring people in, and also sing there myself, and it's fondly. His name is Alan Goldman, but
Yeah.
this is kind of double entendre, known as the G spot,
Yep.
maybe
Yeah.
triple entendre. I don't know, or quadruple even.
Well, yeah, and on top of the door that leads to the performance space is the big letter G over the door,
I remember
and
when that
and
came,
well, and there's a G clef over the fireplace inside,
right?
and yeah, and it's yeah, yeah. I love that place.
Oh God, it's
Yeah.
the
Mm,
best. It was such a
yeah.
great room and beautiful, amazing piano that he bought,
Oh
and
yeah. Every
um,
piano player loves that axe. Yeah.
and he has a B3, which the last
Yeah.
gig I did was with Carrie Frank on the B3 because Carrie said
Hmm.
he had played there for a CD release party that I had for my last record, and he said, "Could we do a gig there with you and me and piano? Because I don't have to bring my." He schleps his B3 on to every gig he does, which is
Oh
like at
man.
least 7 gigs a week normally.
Ooh.
So we did a gig there with Admaro Ruiz on piano, the three of us. Oh, what a deliciously fun gig that was.
Wow. Carrie and Utmaro. Holy mackerel.
It was
Whoa.
it
Yeah.
was groovy and it was adventurous and
Wow.
fun. Oh my God, I
Mm.
loved that gig.
Those are the nights we live for
Yeah,
as artists.
yeah,
Really. Yeah.
yeah, really fun.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to actually talk about your band, your large groups because God, it takes so much work to create a big band, and you have two of them. I mean, you had one
Well,
on the East Coast and the same one, but on the West Coast. So
right.
two lives.
Well, this point, the East Coast band has scattered to the four winds.
Okay.
Well, one of my jazz trumpet players, Bruce Stalins, is in Seattle, and uh,
Bruce, it was all your fault, man.
no, no.
If you hadn't moved to
Well,
Seattle, the
let's
band
see.
still would have been going.
The other jazz trumpet player is teaching college in Wisconsin somewhere. Mike Hackett, if you're on, hi Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Um, my tenor player, Danny Jordan, moved back to Orlando. Um, and let's see, my drummer moved to Hawaii. He met a
Oh,
lady, playing a Broadway show. He fell in love with one of the dancers, and she happened to be Hawaiian.
oh,
And they moved to Hawaii and have a beautiful little baby girl. Well, baby girl.
oh,
She's older than my daughter now, but
oh my God.
yeah. So he went there.
Uh-huh. So needless to say, it is scattered.
Oh yeah, my alto player moved to Germany and is part of the WDR big
Oh,
band. A
nice.
fantastic group that is.
Yeah, that really,
Carolina Strassmeyer. She's a wonderful musician.
mm, great.
Um, let's see. Well, and one of my trombone players. Well, actually, both of the original other two trombone players are scattered now. One's in St. Louis, my buddy Wayne Caniglio, and we're getting ready to release our second CD with the two of us and a rhythm section in St. Louis.
Nice.
So yeah, Wayne and I have had a lot of fun playing together for a lot of
I
years.
don't think you sent me links for that.
Actually, one of the links is that group, just a
Oh,
live performance.
oh, the bottom one, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
Flynn. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch that next. But
Okay.
yeah.
And then my second trombone player, Pat Halloran, ended up moving to Japan because on one of the many tours we did with Toshiko, he fell in love with one of the promoter's assistants.
Uh-huh.
And so they got married. She moved to New York, and it was too much of a culture shock for her. It was just very harsh coming from Japan and living in Manhattan. for her. So they
Uh-huh.
ended up, they left and they moved back to Japan and they're still over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, the New York band scattered to the four winds, but I still once in a while I'll get the group together out here, and there've been a few changes, in the band. Like when I recorded Hiccups, that was the original edition of the band. See, Jennifer and Kendall are still with me. I've known Kendall Kay since North Texas, so 35 years or more. And so Jennifer and Kendall are both still with me, and
Mm-hmm.
um, let me think. Rusty Higgins is still part of the band, and he's a wonderful musician.
Yeah.
Roger Newman was on baritone, and
Yeah.
of course we lost him a couple
Yeah.
of years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Did Les Benedict play with you? He was on before.
no, but I met Les when I got out here and subbed on Steve Huffstetter's band, and we hit it off immediately because I love Les. He's a great guy,
Yeah.
wonderful trombone player,
Mm-hmm.
and we both absolutely adore Conrad Herwig. Les was his teacher.
Oh, wow.
And Conrad was one of the reasons I moved back to New York because I wanted to be around guys like that
Mm.
and get my ass kicked on the horn. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted that. I needed it, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's see, Ray Herman was the tenor soloist on
Mm-hmm.
the cut that we played, and he's in Chicago, where he's from, and in fact plays with the band Chicago now. So he's doing okay for himself.
Right.
So when Ray left town, I ended up with this guy, Pete Chrislieb. So
Oh,
not
couldn't
too
get anybody
shabby.
good.
Yeah, not too shabby, right? Of course, now Pete's up in Washington, so Kirsten Edkins is playing tenor with the band now,
Uh-huh.
and she's one of my favorite musicians in town. Just so much
Great.
heart and soul, and
Yeah. Really great player.
well, she plays 20 years older than she is. I mean, she's got that much together in here and up here. I mean, just a marvelous musician.
Yeah.
Um, and let's see, the original trumpet section, the only one left now is Ann King.
Oh,
Yeah, Roger Ingram was playing lead on that. He is now living in Chicago. Let's see, Larry doesn't play trumpet anymore. So I got Kai Palmer on that book, and Jamie Havorka is my lead trumpet player. Whenever we work, and when Jamie can't make it, I get Tony Bonsera, who I love. Um,
do you rehearse at the Union?
yeah, when there's a gig coming up, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would. If I book something, I'll book a rehearsal, and sometimes I have to book two or three rehearsals to get everybody to play
Yeah.
the parts because not
Mm-hmm.
everybody can make it at once.
Yeah.
And my daughter's godfather, Gary Toll, is
Oh,
one of my trombone players. I hope
no,
he's
I saw
on.
Gary Toll's name here. I think
Yeah,
he's
I think
here.
he was trying to get on. I hope he did
Yeah.
because
Yep. He
texted
said,
me.
"Yeah, Duke."
That's another. Oh, I got to tell you the Spike story too. But the okay, so the Duke story. Gary and I were on the road together. Well, his sister is the lead singer with the Pied Pipers.
Oh, okay.
Nancy Toll Nor,
Okay.
so it goes by Nancy Nor. But
Uh-huh.
Nancy is the sister in between Gary and his older brother Bill, who's left us now. But um, so we were on a tour across the country for 9 weeks with the Pied Pipers, the Jimmy Dorsey Band. I was MDing the Pipers and singing bottom with them, and Gary was playing lead trombone in the band and being road manager. And so we hung a lot on the road and did the martini taste test across country, and a couple of really funny stories about that. But you know, but so I was always in the back of the bus with score paper and pencils. I was always working on something, on a chart for some group or other. Um, and so he started calling me Duke. It's like, you know, writing on the bus. And so I started calling him Count. like Duke and Count, so we became Duke and Count to each other, and yeah, and so and then okay, so the Spike story that goes way back to Orlando. Um, I told you Bruce Stalin's. We had what we called face names. A face name was either based on an outstanding personality trait, an outstanding appearance trait, or something that that something stupid you did once, and everybody saw it, and there was your nickname. Uh, so Bruce was Chub, because he was always skinny, and so one morning I was working with the Walt Disney World Band, and the night before that I had played the show at Rosie O'Grady's in downtown Orlando, and we would get done at 1:30, and I would get home by 2, maybe 2:30 if I hung out with the guys afterwards. And 9:30 the next morning, I'm marching down Main Street at Disney World. So yeah, I was a little bit worse for wear.
Yeah.
Uh, so we're sitting down in Town Square,
Hmm.
right at the entrance where you go into the park.
Yeah.
That was the first 2 sets of the day. We would march down Main Street and sit
Uh-huh.
in formation in Town Square and play a concert set for the whoever guests were walking by. Um, and we were playing one of those, a lot of Americana, a lot of old band music, like a lot of marches,
Yeah.
plus other stuff too. But we were playing one of those marches, and I can't remember which one at this point. But it's like kind of going through it and playing with one eye open, reading the part, and I stepped in a hole where there was supposed to be a rest,
Uh,
right? And the trombone player next to me looked at me and went, "Spike," like spiking a football. But yeah, that was me. Yeah, so Spike.
Wow, man, you make one little thing,
Yep.
and it lives with you for years.
Now there were some good ones too. There was a trumpet player, great trumpet player, Charlie Bertini, lives down there still, and his face name was Shrub because he tried to grow a mustache one time and it didn't come in very well. So
Hey,
Shrub.
well,
Yeah.
let's listen
Yeah.
to something.
Oh, you want to do
And
Flan?
actually, you and I can step off the
Okay.
screen for a minute too. I know you kind of asked me about that. How about Sure as You're Born?
Okay.
And
Oh yeah. Well, especially since we just lost Johnny Mandel. Yeah.
Something to ask you.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah, Johnny, of course, he was an icon to all of us. I was lucky enough to get to know him and call him a friend, and I worked with his band for many years. And I ended up with Ginger Berglund. We did a tribute album to Johnny, and anyone can do a tribute after somebody passes, but we were very happy that we got to do a tribute while he was still with us, and he enjoyed it. He just loved it. He and Martha bought several extra copies of the CD to give out to their friends, and it was just a really beautiful thing. Well, Sure as You're Born was the theme from a movie in 1966. Paul Newman played a detective called Harper. That was the name of the movie.
oh yeah,
This was the theme from Harper,
oh
and the lyrics were added after the fact by Alan and Marilyn Bergman.
oh
Well, and I always would say Johnny never wrote a bad melody or a bad set of chord changes, and Alan and Marilyn have never written a bad lyric.
that's so
And,
true.
and this one turned out so nicely. I got to use the full big band on this one, um, the full size band. So you'll hear from Pete Christlieb on tenor
Hmm.
and Carl Saunders on trumpet, and Carl and I also trade on scat singing on this one.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
and some more of Kendall on drums.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. Um, get that going. Here we are.
Sure as you're born, you were
born for these eyes to feast upon. It's really some phenomenon for a mastermind to frame you, then aim you straight at me. Sure as night follows morn, I was born for a life of holding you. I guess when they were molding you, they knew just how made to order my arms would be. So try them on, my love. You'll find they fit you like a glove. Oh, I'm so glad you were born. What a sweet day, a great event for me. And sure as heaven sent for me to love you, I love you just as sure as you're born. So try them on, my love. You'll find they fit you like a glove. Oh, I'm so glad you were born. What a sweet day, a great event for me. And sure as heaven sent for me to love you, I love you just as sure as you're born.
Cool.
Thanks.
Wow. So that song probably wasn't so swinging originally, right?
Well, in the movie, it was more of a medium tempo. And in fact, I can see her in front of me and I can't think of her name. Angela,
Angela,
jazz singer with a really low alto voice.
was it?
Hagenbach.
Oh, okay.
Angela Hagenbach did
Yeah.
it at Sure
Yeah.
as You're Born, right?
Oh, yeah. It
And
sounds kind of like actually, and you have a sound kind of like Jack Jones. Um,
I admire Jack Jones, actually.
yeah.
Another quick story. I did quite a bit of work with the Jimmy Dorsey Orchestra on the East Coast myself,
Uh-huh.
and we did a little tour with Jack Jones a few years ago,
Hmm.
and I was just blown away with his vocal control and his instrument.
He's
And
such a great musician. Wow.
yeah, and he has absolutely no idea what he's doing. It's amazing. You know,
Wow.
I got to know him on that tour, and then maybe a year or two after that, he was at the Blue Note for a week with Diva Jazz Orchestra, Sherry Miracle's band,
Yeah.
and and so I'm hanging with Jack between sets at the bar, and he had in one of the tunes. I mean, he just has a phenomenal high range that he doesn't even think about. It's just there. You know, he's probably got four
Great.
octaves on
What
him.
a
You know,
great sound. Yeah.
yeah,
And he's and just so darn musical.
oh yeah, and you know he hit a high D, you
Uh-huh.
know, on at the end of one song, and it's like one of those way out only up an octave from that, you know,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sitting there, you know, and then he, you know, we sit down next to each other at the bar, and I said, "So you're singing high D's now?" He says, "I don't know what the hell I'm doing."
I'm
So
just
yeah,
doing it. I don't know what
no,
the hell.
he's great, yeah.
By the
And,
way,
and I've been yeah accused of being his stunt double too with the hair, you know. So, yeah. I went to Ginger and I went to see Mark Murphy a few years ago at the bakery,
yeah.
and got there early, and Mark was in that lobby area reading like the local, you know, whatever the free paper was that, you know, and looks up from his little half glasses, looks up at us, looks at Ginger, looks at me again, and says, "Hey, Jack Jones, how you doing?" So, yeah. Mark, well, I mean, anybody who knew Mark Murphy knew he had like a really twisted sense of humor,
He did. He was
and
funny.
he was fun to hang with. Yeah,
Yeah, he was
he
a
was.
really cool person.
He was beautiful, man. Great,
Yeah.
incredible, another incredible musician with his
Oh, yeah.
voice, and
Totally.
just certifiably insane, but in a beautiful way. You know?
Totally. So
Yeah.
warm.
Oh
Very,
yeah.
very open and warm and
Yeah.
yeah, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing guy. By the way, Senior Goldman is here.
Oh, beautiful, Alonso.
He says, just when you think it's safe, I appear out of nowhere. I love hearing you guys. Oh, and Connie is here. Connie
Oh,
Nacios.
Connie, beautiful.
Hey,
Hey,
Connie.
Connie. Hey. All right. Now, Connie and Ken have a daughter who is a phenomenal singer, Abby.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had the good fortune of hearing Abby 2 weeks in a row in January. I went to the Gen conference in New Orleans, and she was with Jennifer Shelton Barnes's group
Hmm.
from North
Yeah.
Texas. Um,
And then
and
she
she
came
did
and
some
sang it out.
arranging too. And but then she also the week after that, I took the Cal State Northridge big band to New York,
Oh, yeah. Right.
and we were part of the new Jack Rudin Jazz Championship
Hmm.
at Lincoln Center,
Right.
and Abby was with the 1 O'clock, my old band, you know,
Yeah.
the 1 O'clock from North Texas, and Ted Nash had written a phenomenal chart on Chick Corea's Windows, and
Uh-huh.
that was in the repertoire. We all had set repertoire that we had to choose from for the
Hmm.
competition, and we played Windows, and the 1 O'clock also played Windows. Well, Alan Baylock, the director, is a great writer also, and he got the idea that Abby should double some of the woodwind lines on this chart with her voice.
Nice.
And these are not easy lines. I mean, it's like it's hard enough for the woodwinds to play. And Abby was singing along with them and just absolutely nailing everything. And it was just such a treat, you know, and yeah, and then of course getting to know Ken and Connie at Alan's place, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, it's like, and Ken's a great guitar player, by the
He's a
way.
great guitar player.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Really great.
Connie, I want to hear you sing, Connie. You know, I want to hear you.
She's a great singer too.
Cool.
They were at least one of my workshops, that I've run for years, a while back. But yeah. Anyway, that's like a that's like a real stable part of the community here in LA. The
Hmm.
G spot.
Yeah, it's a
It was
gathering.
really kind of getting a little crazy there at the end, right? Like like Alan
Oh,
was like, I don't even know who half these people are, you know?
yeah, right. It was fun though. It's well, and it will be again. I mean, when we get back to normal, we'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I should mention. Speaking of the G Spot,
Yes.
our friend Marina Pekoski,
Yeah.
wonderful pianist and wonderful
Great singer.
singer also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, she came up with a brilliant idea of doing a Zoom hang for the regulars, for the Tuesday night regulars.
Oh, how nice.
And I think it's going to be in a couple of weeks on a Tuesday.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I'll get her to send you the info. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's just a great idea that Marina came up with. We were
Yeah,
talking over
because
the past few days. Yeah. So,
everybody misses each other, I'm sure.
oh yeah, it's just it's I have my nice little office back here that I work in and I
Hmm.
practice and I write
Yeah.
music, but I'm getting tired of these four walls. So I think we all are. We're all getting stir crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody, was it Putter yesterday? Somebody was talking about how, I think it was, restaurant people are being, like it's a drag for restaurant people, that they've lost, they've lost their jobs and income,
Mm.
but the musicians,
Yeah, we're
it's like
getting it.
really hard on the
Yeah,
musicians.
yeah, yeah. I don't want to get negative, but it's bleak right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's still so surreal.
Hmm.
Beginning it was surreal and it still is surreal. It's just like a bad science fiction movie.
Yeah, bless you. Yeah. This is like, yeah, I mean, looking outside and seeing orange colored sky,
Oh
only
yeah,
not the
just to
song.
top it off,
Yeah, right.
right? To top it off, fire and right after
Well,
like oven temperatures.
well, and I woke up this morning again. I smelled smoke inside the house.
Me too.
It's just, I mean, you can't get away from it. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And anyone out there who is savvy to the air quality index that you can get it for any location. It's consistently been over 100 here. Air quality index. That's particles per wherever. A good air quality is 0 to 50. 51 to 100 is moderate. 100 to 150, or 101 to 150 is unhealthy for sensitive groups, and 151 to 200 is unhealthy. Well, yesterday morning, I got up and looked at my phone at the weather app. The air quality index was 350 yesterday morning. Like, oh my God. So I immediately I told my daughter, and she said, "What?" So, yeah. So yeah, it's been surreal, and yeah. Hopefully this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any gigs at all?
No, I've got. Well, I just got a cancellation for the end of February. So yeah, and I just found out the Cal State system now has decided that the spring semester will also be all remote online,
Oh my
which
God.
that's hell for ensembles. I mean,
Yeah.
private lessons, I
Yeah,
can
I
I
know.
can deal
You
with
can
it.
get by. Yeah.
I mean, I don't like it, but I can deal with it. I mean, because I like to play with the students when we're doing lessons together. But and well, I'm actually hoping some of my students are on the call right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, because I invited as many of them as I could think of on Facebook. So anyway, yeah, I like to be in person when I teach lessons, and it's been a challenge with Skype and FaceTime. I haven't tried it on Zoom yet, but I found FaceTime has a better sound quality than Skype, and there's less buffering a little bit less buffering. They're still buffering, um, but you can't play together because of the nature of the internet. And I was talking to a web designer about this, who actually happens to play trombone, and he was telling me that uh, because of the information having to go from here to here via a substation and via it's like so many connections that all this has to go through.
Yeah.
There's going to be at least a few microseconds of delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a musician in Orange County who was part of the Jack Trip movement. Do you know that?
I haven't tried that. You have to have a hard wire, which I could. I mean, I could run a DSL cable to my modem here,
Yeah.
but even then, it's not exactly like being together. And I think you have to be within a certain number of miles of each other.
It's better if you're on the closer side, but I think,
Yeah,
I mean, and within LA is
yeah.
okay. It's just like if you're across the country.
Hmm.
And I know some people are having good times with Jam Kazam, but I mean, it's still
Hmm.
not perfect, but it may never be perfect because of what you said. We
Yeah,
can't beam ourselves over yet. And
yeah, right.
I've been waiting for that for years.
Me too. Yeah, I've been. Yeah, I did a quick funny thing. Bill Watrous, every time he called me on the phone, same thing. Every time he called me, Scotty, beam me up. Same thing. He'd start every phone call like that.
That's funny. Oh man.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. He used to be around Dante's when I was a waitress there. Him, God, that was a good time.
Yeah.
Those years were good.
I never got to be in Dante's because I was on the other coast. And yeah, I was never in Dante's or Shelley's Manhole,
I was never in Shelley's because I came a little too late.
or Carmelo's either, for that matter. Yeah.
Carmela's was you would have liked Carmela's. That was a great hang.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
where I miss is Charlie O's. And that was to me that was the convivial hang in the valley because I used to live out there. I was in Canoga Park for a while. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that was good. There used to be a big band room. It was probably before you got here. It was because I was one of the Randy Van Horn singers for a minute.
Oh, okay. Right.
But it
Oh,
was like
was
in
it
the mid
Moonlight
70s.
Tango? Was that it?
No, this was like a big. It was like a really big space. Maybe it was a factory kind of a space. It was out in like Canoga Park somewhere.
Was it was it in Agora Hills? Maybe with the Canyon Club? Was that it?
I don't think so. Although it was so long ago, it could have been, but I don't think so. But yeah, it was a long time ago. I think I was 21 or 2 or something, you know.
Yeah, the Canyon Club might not have been, and that's in Agora Hills.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, there's so much has happened, you know.
Yeah, right. Well,
A
I
lot of
mean,
times I can't believe you guys remember all the stuff. I mean, of course there were some really momentous things that you went through that are memorable, but
yeah.
so much. I mean, Bill Goodwin, what a memory, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And he played with so many different people and
right.
damn.
Yeah, I'll bet he had some great Phil Wood stories.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could talk to
Phil,
him for
well, Phil
hours.
was a character, and yeah, yeah. Yeah, trying to think.
So who was one of your heroes?
Oh man.
Who and let's put it this way. I mean you already said who you listened to and who turned you on, but especially trombone, like as you grew older, like because your trombone playing is so outstanding and
Thank you.
just curious about that. And also maybe a mentor, like somebody really who you felt like, I mean,
Well, I was lucky enough to have a handful of those.
Yes, Gary. Excuse me. That it was King Arthur's.
Ah,
That was
okay.
it.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Um, okay. Well, my early listening was traditional and swing. So, I got into Tommy Dorsey because he had more control of the instrument than anybody at that time. And then somebody told me about Jack Teagarden. I'm like, wow. And I started checking him out. I'm like, oh, man. And yeah, he played differently from anybody else in his day, too. And so it was the guys that broke the rules that I listened to. It was Jack Teagarden, J.J. Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Kay Winding was another one for lead playing.
Yeah.
And uh, Irby Green was probably the greatest all around. And ask any trombone player that was around New York in the 50s, 60s, 70s, Irby Green was the king. Yeah, and I was lucky enough I got to meet him a few times and hear him play. Just wonderful trombonist. Uh, Probably my biggest influence as a jazz player is Carl Fontana,
Mm.
followed by Frank Rosolino,
Yeah.
and
God, he was so
and
good. Ooh.
and there's JJ in me too, and some Curtis Fuller, and um, so many influences. And I mentioned Conrad Herwig earlier.
Yeah.
He was a later influence on me,
Mm-hmm.
and we're pretty close in age. And just other people that I got to play with, luckily enough, particularly, well, you know what? When I was in Orlando, a father and son by the name of Bill and John Allred, both phenomenal trombone players,
Mm.
and both still active, well, as active as any of us can be right now. John moved to New York a few years ago, and he's doing well for himself. Bill is in Orlando. The rest of the section on Toshiko's band in New York was at various times Luis Bonilla, who's an Angelino,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see, Pat Halloran, Steve Armour, who is now a screenwriter living
Oh.
down in Orange County. Tim Newman played bass trombone. Who am I forgetting? Just different people that went through. But one of the regular subs in the section was Wayne Andre. And you want to talk about an icon of the instrument. I mean, he was right underneath Irby in the pecking order of the studio work, and justifiably so. I mean, what a wonderful musician he was. And I got to be very good friends with Wayne, and he was one of the absolute mensches in town.
Mm.
And I could be doing some quintet gig with Mike Fahn, another transplant from LA to New
Fantastic.
York. Oh yeah, well, doing a quintet gig one night with Mike at some dive bar in the East Village in Manhattan, and there was a blinding snowstorm outside. And I was like, "Oh, geez, nobody's gonna show up." We get there to start setting up. Wayne is already there, sitting at the bar with Bob Alexander, another trombone icon, right? And they're doing a Scotch taste test, but they're waiting for us to play. But Wayne was one of these guys that would come out through a blizzard to hear another trombone player play and support them. He was like that, and that's an important thing, to for someone like me.
Yeah.
I am trying to pass that on to the next generation in my teaching, that keep supporting each other. The environment at Northridge is unique. I have never ever anywhere I've taught, I've never seen such camaraderie and more of a feeling of family than I do in the jazz program at Cal State Northridge. And thank you, Matt Harris, for bringing me on board, and handing the band off to me for a year and a half. I got to do it, and I'm not doing it anymore, but I am still teaching trombone.
Gary Fukushima's there, right?
Yeah, he's going to be on your show coming up too.
He's
Yeah,
one of my
Gary.
favorite piano players.
And favorite human beings too. Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
And before
Gary.
him,
Yeah,
or Gary, the bass player, he was,
Gary Pratt.
yeah, Gary Pratt. He was like
Yeah.
the head of the department for a long time.
Well, and I think that a lot of the environment that is engendered in that place came from Gary Pratt and has been continued to be fostered by Gary Fukushima
Yeah.
and just the older students kind of mentoring the younger students in such a gentle, generous, giving way.
Yeah. Mm.
Not, yeah, you played that wrong. No, nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just openly offer help. And, you know, and yeah, it's just such a neat thing. And yeah, I'm grateful to be part of it.
That's
Even
cool.
even if it is all online right now.
They had been looking for a vocal, vocal jazz vocal instructor, and I had offered up my resume. This was just a few months ago. I was surprised that
Oh,
they were
good,
even looking at this time, but I
good,
don't know who
good.
they did not end up with me, but I'm not sure. I'm sure
Well,
whoever they end up with is going to be great.
I don't think they've filled it yet
Mm,
because we're in such a state of flux with everything
yeah,
with the pandemic. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's all we can do to do our normal
yeah.
teaching load right now.
Mm-hmm,
But I know that Tina does want to bring that element back into the program, and
mm-hmm.
I also offered my help with it too,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
for whatever that's worth. But funny thing, I've only had two voice lessons in my life. Uh, Working with Ginger was very helpful to me.
Yeah.
She did give me a lot of good pointers, and a lady by the name of Juliana Gondek. Uh, at one, I don't know if she still does, but at one time she was in charge of the opera program at UCLA.
Oh, okay.
Juliana is an incredible teacher. So I got to go see Juliana a couple of times, and it was just wonderful. And she had me hitting those Jack Jones notes. It was like, I'm not a tenor. Yeah, so she had me up there. She had me hitting those notes, and they were coming out. And it's just, I mean, all the knowledge of the physiology of the human body
Uh-huh.
is just well, I mean, and she has these medical anatomy books,
Yeah.
and we were looking at them. It's like, okay, now here are the this is the structure of the abdominal muscles, and it's like one of those where you peel back this layer and you see what's underneath it, and yeah, it's just
And
fascinating.
also, I mean, what I've found over the years is that professional musicians are really actually fabulous vocal students. They get it.
Yeah.
They just get how to look and how to study and think about it. And I've always had a good time teaching professional musicians.
Well, and it's fun. I mean, I think it's an extension of my playing.
Mm-hmm.
And having done it now for a long enough time, my playing is an extension of my voice
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Right.
too. So they help each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, it helps to be able, I tell my students this too, it helps to be able to do numerous things well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if how many people, can walk in and sight read an inner vocal part.
Mm-hmm.
Horn players because we're used to seeing these inner parts with the weird intervals and stuff,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really phase me that much, you know, uh, you know, but not everybody has that point of view, and
Yeah.
it's been
Absolutely.
interesting as a musical director with two of the top vocal groups in history. It's been an eye opener for me, writing new material for both groups and bringing it in, and it's like, oh, okay, well, here's how this part goes, and then, show people, and well, okay, well, yeah, okay, now we got it. Let's try this part, and but you know, it's a process.
It's
It's
all a
like
process.
it's like rehearsing a
Life,
band. It's like
life is a process.
yeah, life is a process. It's like rehearsing a band.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has to put their part into the context, and
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah. I mean, with the voice, you don't have valves or keys or a slide. Well, actually, you do have a slide. It's just not, operated by hand. So yeah.
We have a comment from Juliet Gray. Juliana Gondik is still a professor at UCLA, a colleague of
Yes.
my husband, clarinetist Gary Gray.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Juliana is a wonderful teacher and wonderful human being.
hmm,
So yeah.
cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Well, we have, I'd like to see
Okay.
that last YouTube because it's you playing with,
With Wayne Caniglio, my buddy in St. Louis. Yeah.
cool. You know, I just have to ma- do a shout out a little bit to Ryan Dragon
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and his partner in
Oh, no,
crime.
Noel. Yeah.
Actually, no, Joey Sellers. I was
Oh,
thinking of that
oh,
kind of partner
oh.
in
That
crime.
partner. Yeah.
You know, one time, I don't know if you ever
Yeah.
heard me say this, but you know, I was booking that club, right? You played there, the Bar Fedora.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Right,
And
right.
one time, can you believe I booked Joey and Ryan? You know that duo that they
I
do?
would have loved to have seen them at that place.
It was so out, man. Ryan was wearing, you know, like
Yeah.
swim shorts and a boxer mask.
Right, and the cone face, and yeah, right,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
and my the funniest memory that I always have is that this couple came in because the guy wanted to introduce her to jazz.
Oh
I
God.
said before it started, I said, you know, I just want to tell you, this is not the usual thing. This is a very outside kind of thing. And they said, okay. And they literally sat through the whole first set and they were smiling. They were having a good time, you know?
Well, it's fun to watch and listen to those guys play, and yeah, they're both great trombone players,
Oh,
and just
God.
really you talk about one of the most open, creative minds. Joey lived in New York for a short time, and we got to work together back there. Before I ended up moving back out here.
Yeah.
Not back. He moved back
He's
out
so
here. I
cool.
moved out here, but yeah. Yeah, Joey put a trombone quartet together called the Algonquin Quartet. And we played at the International Trombone Festival in Redlands about 3 years ago. And, the kind of stuff you see Joey and Ryan do, imagine kind of almost like that for four trombones. And it's Joey and myself, Alex Isles, and George Thatcher. And we push the limits. And I
It's
feel
so
like
much fun because it's just like, come on,
well,
let's get
well,
creative here,
yeah,
you
but
know?
I feel like the square bebop guy in the group, but it's fun. It really is. It's a lot of fun, and we did some of the more out stuff, including one piece where we had these tin pie plates over our bells as mutes. Well, there's no way to play softly with one of those over a trombone bell. I mean, that buzz of a tin pie plate over your bell, and Bill Watrous and Dick Nash were in the audience,
Oh,
and Bill came up to
oh
Alex and
my
I
God.
afterwards and said he had this look on his face of bewilderment and said, "What the hell was that?" And we did the pie plate thing, and Dick Nash looks at us and says, "Curse is foiled again." Funny cat. I guess we
Okay,
better get to
well,
this
let's
other
see.
tune.
All right, yeah, let's do the.
Yeah, Flan. I wrote this in memory of Bob Flanagan after he passed, so that's why it's called Flan. Yeah.
Okay.
And does he list the personnel? I think he does, but okay. Well, anyway.
I just wrote this next one. A couple of weeks ago, we lost the original lead singer of the Four Freshmen, Bob Flanagan, and he was a friend of mine. And I dedicate this to Bob Flanagan. It's called Flan. That was his nickname.
Scott Whitfield, how about him? First time I heard that cat, I said, "Oh wow, oh wow." No. Wow. Anyway, nicest cat in the world right here. California's treating you pretty nice, huh? Yeah. You miss the governor?
No. Neither does Maria right now either.
Yeah, a little comedy hour.
I just set him up. You hit him out of the park.
beautiful song.
Thank you. Thanks.
And melodic.
I
And
need to give
beautiful
a
playing.
shout out to the rhythm section because those guys are just great, and I think they're all on Facebook too. Ken Keener on piano,
Mm-hmm.
Eric Warren on bass, and Kevin Giannino is the drummer. All St. Louis's finest,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the guys on the two CDs. One of which came out a few years ago. The other one's probably out around February or March. Both
Mm-hmm.
on the Summit Records, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, I just wanted to give those guys a shout out. And
Yeah.
yeah, and the reason I was sitting on a stool, if anybody was wondering, about that time I was discovering my intolerance for gluten, and I wasn't feeling well at all that
Oh.
week. So that's why I was sitting on a stool,
Oh.
and Wayne was standing and playing.
Oh.
I would have been standing, but
Uh,
yeah, I wasn't really feeling too well. But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that can be. Glad you found that.
yeah, yeah, it's been a game changer.
Well, sir, you know what? It's been 2 hours.
Man, that
I
flew
always say
by.
that, and everybody goes, "Really? Wow."
Well, it's
Maybe
funny because
everybody
we
thinks
get
that.
going on different aspects of everybody's life, and it's like I was fascinated yesterday with putter and VR,
Yeah.
and when you had Corey on a little while ago, and
Yeah.
David, oh my God, David Amram, man, you could do like 12 hours with
I
David
know.
and still not get everything.
I know.
You
We
know.
didn't even get into what's that? He has a whole book on who's the the hip bebopper. I
Oh,
mean
Kerouac,
Kerouac. Yeah,
right?
he has a
Okay,
whole Kerouac thing. I don't think we even talked about that.
yeah. Man. Well, I mean, before we do sign off, I do
Yeah.
want to give a couple more shout outs to some heroes of mine that some of them are still here. Bill Holman is absolutely one of my arranging heroes, and I'm lucky enough that I get to play with his band. When the union is open, we rehearse every Thursday at the union, and I mean, this is like everything I know about counterpoint I learned from Bill Holman, and he told me one time everything he knows about counterpoint he learned from Bill Finnegan, who was the great writer
Oh,
for
interesting.
Glenn Miller and Tommy Dorsey, and
Yeah.
he wrote the hip stuff that those bands played.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, and I mentioned Rob McConnell. Thad Jones
He
was another
did.
big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Man, huge influence. Frank West, I was lucky enough to get to know him and be friends
Mm-hmm.
with him. Nat Adderley was a mentor, for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and yeah, I got to play with Nat in the early '90s at New York,
Oh, cool.
and it was just great. And, I showed up, man, it's like my first night on the gig was at Sweet Basil in the Village, right? And man, I better put on my best suit and just right. I show up down there, and these guys are not dressed in suits. I mean, Nat had a sport coat on, but he had a turtleneck on under it, and Vincent Herring was dressed nice but casual, and Jimmy Cobb, Walter Booker, and Rob Bargad were the rhythm section. I was like, oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven. At the end of the night, first night, Nat looks at me and says, "That's a nice suit. Don't wear it tomorrow night."
And there you go.
Yep. In other words, relax.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
So yeah.
Well, I also would like to do a few shout outs as well. One thing tomorrow, I don't know if, I guess you probably wouldn't have known her, but Kevin Latow is going to be on. She's a wonderful singer.
I'm planning to watch that uh, because Corey Allen is a mutual friend, and actually Corey and I think Corey tried to get Kevin and I together for me to do a little bit of writing for her a few years ago, and it didn't work out logistically for whatever reason. But I'm going to check that out tomorrow because she's a wonderful artist. Yeah.
She is. She's a wonderful artist. She had a very strong career for a while. She sang with Sergio Mendes for a number of
Yeah.
years, and the Yellow Jackets, and she wrote a lot. Very good singer and a really great teacher as well.
Cool.
And then Monday, the daughter of Bobby Bradford and Melba Joyce,
Oh yeah, Carmen. Yeah, yeah.
Carmen Bradford. I mean, what a heritage, right?
She's
And she's
great.
a great singer. And actually, Monday also at 11 Pacific Standard Time, Sunny Wilkinson is doing an interview show that she's doing every 2 weeks.
Okay.
She moved it specifically to 11 so she wouldn't interrupt with mine, which is
Ah,
that's
that's
because
nice.
we're good friends.
She's a mensch too. So yeah.
She's a man. And then again, speaking of singers, Tuesday, Paulette McWilliams, who's
Oh
a
man.
really great solo and hugely successful backup singer. She's sung with so many people, and she did a workshop here once. She can do anything. She is so versatile. It's
Wow.
really amazing. So that's going to be Tuesday. So and then next week I'm actually starting to do 3 days a week instead of six.
Right.
Although for a few weeks I'm doing Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then I decided Sundays, that really should be for my grandchildren. So then I'll be moving to Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Ah, okay.
But I'm still doing, I'm still like booked all the way through October. And
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
anybody wanting to know who's going to be on, you can look at my website and you'll see.
Right.
But I want to thank you, Scott. It was really
Oh man.
enjoyable hearing about what you've done and your
Thank
perspective on
you.
things.
And it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Kathy, and thanks for doing this. This is what 145 times you've done it now,
Something
or
like that, yeah.
yeah. That's no small feat, and it's been. I would say that it's been an anchor during this time, to just to be able to get together with friends and
Yeah.
hang, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been a good thing, and thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. My
My
pleasure.
mic stand, sorry. But yeah, yeah. So, oh man,
Thank you, and have a great day. I'm gonna see now. Now they came back from lunch, so now they're continuing on my kitchen. So
perfect. Yeah,
you can actually see a few pictures of my kitchen, the room, the room that the kitchen is supposed to be in,
yeah.
and it's pretty empty right now. They're just doing the subfloor.
Ah, oh geez. So
Yeah,
you're having it totally redone then?
yeah. And what happened was we wanted to take up the floor. And when we started a few months ago, well, I won't go into the whole story, but it's one of those. My poor husband. I'm a very tolerant person. My husband, his tolerance is like 25% at least less than mine. So many things have like happened along the way. I mean, getting the home equity loan was like really trippy. We had an incorrect lien,
Uh-oh.
and well, actually two that came up. One was really easy to deal with because it was something like my name, but it wasn't really. So that was easy. The second lien, just anybody who's listening who goes through this, you might want to check on your house because we even got refinanced after the lien was put on our house, and they didn't see it.
Wow.
So when we went to get a home equity loan, this lien came up from the people who we bought our house from 20 years ago. She had loaned her daughter some money, and the lien was mistakenly put on our property.
Oh.
And that, I'm telling you, man, it took a
Yeah.
lot to get that handled. I think it took 2 months to get that handled. But
Yeah.
anyway, when they were pulling up the floor, and the same thing happened to Alan Goldman, when they were pulling up the floor, we found a very large area of water damage,
Uh-oh.
and so that that went in a little other direction. But yeah, Alan Goldman had quite a right.
Wow. Yeah, water is nasty. Yeah, I had a basement flood in New Jersey years ago
Oh,
and lost a whole bunch of stuff.
the basement flooding was horrible because there was no place for the water to go.
Yeah.
Just like flooded, and all your stuff was ruined.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and what had happened is the washing machine hose burst,
Uh,
and it happened sometime during the night because I was alone in the house, and I woke up and It's like I heard water running. I was like,
Ah.
is somebody using my hose outside? And didn't see anybody. So I, you know, kept going downstairs, and like I opened the basement door and I heard this buzzing. It was the signal on the washing machine.
Oh.
And I went down there and I ran down the stairs
Ah.
and I ended up standing
Ah.
in 8 inches of water.
Oh God.
And there were pictures that were in bins on the floor that were ruined.
Oh.
Pictures of when I played with Nat at Sweet Basil, and when I played with
Oh.
Lionel Hampton after, so, yeah. So I lost all those pictures. The negatives got destroyed. Yeah.
Oh.
Water erases all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll live through this, and the fires hopefully will be over soon in California.
Like I said, knock on wood.
Yeah. So listen, have a great day.
You
Thanks again
too.
for being here. It was really
And
fun.
thanks to everybody for tuning in and listening, and
Yeah.
thank you again, Kathy. It's been fun, and it's been a blast actually. And
Oh, you're welcome. And everyone have a really great day. And we'll see you tomorrow.
okay, all right.
Okay.
Bye everybody.
Bye.